Welcome to Revlog, where we're glad we're rolling now and only now.
How true that is.
That's an important distinction.
But this is Revlog, where Bryan comes with song, and Aaron comes to pontificate. So we're grateful.
I love that. I actually love that.
The well is dry today.
Wow.
The song well.
The well is dry.
Yeah.
Well, I think Aaron said he might have a song for you today. Is that right?
Next week.
Oh, next week.
Next week.
Next
yes.
week. The song will come
Stay
then.
tuned.
We look very forward to
Oh,
that.
indeed.
Yeah.
And we all may
Every
look
head bowed, every
exactly
eye
the
closed.
same. We may look next week. So stay tuned.
You're just prepping
Yeah.
the
All right.
audience for that.
So, Lord willing, we'll get to next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
This week, the second half of James chapter 2.
Yeah.
So, Bryan, you're reading this second half of James chapter 2. Is your faith dead or alive?
Let's go to the EKG and see what's going on. The interesting thing about this is you could be glib about it and just say, well, actions speak louder than words.
Sure.
That's. But I think, and there's some merit to that, but the reason that kind of cliche has any cachet at all is because there is some truth to how you move out into the world as being reflective of your of what you believe about the world. The way that you move in the world reflects what you believe about the world. But as I was thinking about this passage of Scripture, I thought about the fact that in many, many families, and we've all experienced, everybody alive has experienced this, there are, in any family growing up, and really any organization, but it starts in the family, there are expressed rules and there are unwritten rules. And the unwritten rules, and again, this is the case in any organization, are always more powerful than what is articulated. You say, you can name the rules. We go to church, or we are a Christian family, or whatever, but the unwritten rules are always the more powerful. And sometimes this is very unpleasant. I know my parents, somebody may say, I know my parents loved me, but I knew that there were certain things that they didn't want to hear. There are certain things that I couldn't talk about. And really, that's more reflective of what a family believes. And so I think James is hitting on that here, and he's tapping into that, and he's saying, you can say anything you want, but the way that you conduct yourselves, the way that you interact, what you give attention to, and what you disallow, that's going to reflect what you really believe.
Yeah, and I think that proves the point where he comes to the demons. I think that's his most illuminating point here, where he says, well, the demons believe in Jesus Christ. They say that.
That's right.
Right. So how do we know where they stand in that relationship with him? It's reflected in their actions and who they are and what they do.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So, Pastor Aaron, as you read this text, what grabbed you?
Bryan, what are the top 5 unwritten rules in baseball that you want to make sure
They
that
are
are upheld?
The game must be so long that it is boring.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now there's fighting words right there. So we're going to move on from that quickly. Wow.
So at this point, you
Am
would
I
throw
wrong?
at Bryan.
You throw at-
right?
yes,
You
right.
throw it
Yeah,
at
yeah,
him.
right.
And,
What are the unwritten rules at this table, buddy?
Okay. So I think I'm in good company here. I don't find tension in this scripture, but I say that with a caveat. I don't think it works in reverse. So I don't have a problem saying that my faith is going to be lived out by the way that I interact with people. It's just going to be evident in that. Now, I don't think that you can say that going the other way, that my work will justify then my worth in heaven, or that if I do something, then I get this. It's more that if I love my wife, I want to show her that I love her by doing this, this, and this. Notice I didn't list anything because we are recording. So
This,
yeah,
this, and
this. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
but
April, if you'd like to comment below on the
Yeah.
on the things you would appreciate
but,
here.
when you go and study, I studied a very specific music history period and performance practice, and it's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to put that into practice. If I'm going to be a practitioner of that kind of study, it's really going to bear out in how I go about observing choral music or whatever. And I think faith is very much that. I think James is saying that your belief is just going to be lived out, and there should not be tension in that. The fact that I'm just going to go out and tell people that I love Jesus, and I'm going to show them because I serve others, and I think that's the beauty of living faith.
Yeah, and to your point, it doesn't work in reverse that those actions don't save us.
That's right.
Correct? And so those things will not draw us into our relationship with Jesus Christ. But through that relationship with him, those things will be lived out, and that fruit will come. So I wonder if the Apostle Paul, and maybe even in Galatians, would push back on some of his use of Abraham or Rahab here. But I think his point is exactly what you're saying here, that those things are the product of their faith.
Yeah. I mean, both of them, both Rahab and Abraham, had encounters with, whether it be the spies or with God Himself, and there was that revelation, and then the action then was a response to that, God revealing Himself in whatever way, and so that's it's chicken and egg a little bit, but I would argue probably that God revealed Himself, and so that faith then motivated them.
You do have in Rahab somebody that doesn't announce her faith. You see the action and you trace back to the faith, and I think this is what is important. It doesn't faith or actions do come from what you believe, and it as you said, it doesn't. The reverse of that is actions don't produce the kind of faith.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things there. She does on some level, and I have to think back. I'm working on memory here. What she says about God when she interacts with him is a sort of announcement of faith, isn't it?
She knows what she's heard about Israel. She knows what that their prominence, that God is with them.
Right. I guess what I'm referring to is her. They found a way station with her. She was very open and accommodating to them.
Right.
And then they engaged her in conversation.
Yeah, and previous to that, her interaction with God was minimal, but on some level, it was still faithful, even though it was minimal. I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
I think you bring up a really good point in that when we stand before others and at a memorial service or something, I don't want to leave them questioning and to trying to stack up. Here are the deeds of his life. Here are the deeds of the things that Aaron did. Rather, here is his professed faith, and look how that played out. Right. Rather than us guessing, well, we saw him do a lot of good things, but we never heard him talk about.
But there is some of that mystery there, though, because there are going to be some things that surprise everybody. This is the big surprise.
Yeah.
It's the surprise in the Samaritan. Mm-hmm. That's why that parable worked. This person was a faith reprobate, and yet he did these things. Therefore, that points back to something that must have been true in his life.
Well, and thanks for pointing us forward to our next Bible study series. It's going to be in the parables in Luke, and we'll get to the Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
And as we work through those parables, one of the things that you do look for is the shift or the change or the attention grabber, right? Because there's a normal circumstance, and then Jesus twists it somewhere along the way in the story, and then that's often where you find the truth.
This is speaking of those parables. The parable where Jesus says the obedient son was the son who did what his father wanted. The disobedient son was the son who announced his intent.
Ooh, that's good
to do. So,
Yeah, he said he would, but didn't.
Right, exactly.
Right? Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, Bryan, back to this text at the end of James chapter 2. What question came to mind for you?
Well, I'm putting together all kinds of unwritten rules as I live, with regards to, people.
Right.
I think just last night, I shook hands with somebody and I was very friendly, but I was wanting to keep my distance.
Was it one of us?
I wasn't going to say something, but
I'm being very vulnerable here, so please, cone of protection. I think I got that message across. That's not a happy thing necessarily, but I did have a pressing thing on my mind, and I needed to get to that. But I want to act in such a way that I am transparent with what I really believe about God and about people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I think I have the ability, and I think, I'm not alone in this, but I certainly have the ability to say and yet push back. And I don't act on, and these are not necessarily matters of faith, but they can be. I mean, they can be spiritual things. And
well, to your point before, our actions point to what we believe.
That's right. That's right.
And so what are you saying in those actions about what you believe and who you believe in?
I'm saying, I'm afraid that any interaction with you right now is going to prevent me from doing something important. So I'm afraid. I'm acting out of fear.
So maybe I missed it. Was there a question in there?
No.
Well, the question is, no, there was not a question. Aaron is exactly right. Thank you, Aaron.
My distinguished colleague from New Braunfels. No. Yes.
This is a filibuster.
My question is, what is the list of rules emanating from my life? What are the unwritten rules there?
Okay.
What are they? In other words, the unwritten rules are made visible in action. So what am I saying by the way that I live that is at odds with what I speak?
Gotcha.
I really like that, Bryan, because I have this almost storyboard in my mind of us, and as you ask that, when we're having an interaction, there are things that I'm seeing, above us that are
thought balloons.
If you will, that are being transmitted beyond the words. And so I guess my question is, are the words I'm saying transmitting
That's good.
what I'm really believing?
Is there a subtext?
Yes. Because there is a subtext. There is always a subtext.
Yeah.
And does it match?
Does it match?
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Yeah, that is good. And sometimes we have problematic interactions because our actions and our demeanor don't line up with our tone or the things that we're attempting to say.
It's incongruent.
And it's incongruent, and that can be very confusing
Absolutely.
to people. And hopefully those do line up with both our words and our faith.
Yeah.
And who God has called us to be. Yeah. So we would love to hear your thoughts on this passage in the end of James chapter 2, if you would comment below.